Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the IMF hands out its biggest coronavirus emergency loan, and it goes to South Africa. Africa's most developed nation is granted $4.3 billion as it struggles with the impact of the pandemic. Also, trailblazing French feminist Gisèle Halimi passes away. The 93-year-old Tunisian-born lawyer was key to the decriminalisation of abortion here in France. And joining the flock, one rare woman is amongst those raising sheep in Senegal, livestock that is particularly in demand in the days running up to the Muslim Eid al-Adha holiday, which is due on Friday. But first, South Africa has been granted a $4.3 billion emergency loan from the International Monetary Fund. It's the organization's single biggest coronavirus aid payout. With about 500,000 cases, South Africa has the continent's highest infection rate. Its economy has also been hit hard by the pandemic, and it's facing its biggest contraction in 90 years. Sam Bradpeace has more.
This $4.3 billion loan from the IMF to South Africa is unprecedented in this era of COVID. Then again, South Africa is an exceptional case. It accounts for just over half of all the coronavirus cases on the African continent. And the economic fallout, of course, has already and will be terrible. The government has predicted a 7.2% contraction in the overall economy by the end of the year. Now, despite all of this, some lawmakers within the ruling ANC party were sceptical at first about taking on such a large loan from the IMF. Opposition parties shared the same sentiment. They said that, well, look, historically, the IMF has attached strict conditionality to its loans. They forced countries to cut public spending, privatise industry and lose capital controls. However, this emergency loan won't come with the same restrictions. All the IMF has asked is that South Africa is transparent with how it spends the money. This comes after Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, was forced last week to admit that some of the public relief funds to deal with this pandemic had been siphoned off or looted.
Well, South Africa has the world's fifth largest number of confirmed coronavirus infections. Those entering the country have to self-isolate. Many have to do so in specially set up centres. Our correspondents have more.
Residents of Mitchell's Plain Township gathered early to hear an important message from health authorities.
It's your behaviour that will make you to be able to stop the spread.
The Western Cape's provincial health minister is busy raising awareness within the community.
They need to keep physical distance. It's not only social distancing in terms of the gatherings, but within a house where there's an overcrowding, they need to keep a distance so that they protect the OPA and the OMA from them being infected by them.
Many South Africans with COVID symptoms cannot self-isolate. They are encouraged to go to quarantine centres. In Cape Town, around 5,000 places are available, but only a third are being used. Many of the sick are put off using these facilities because of the crushing social stigma.
A lot of those people feel rejection. They feel that their families don't want them. So what is their next step? And I think for us to desensitize our communities around the fact that they stigmatize people is to do a lot more education around the virus.
Patients leaving the centres say the experience wasn't so bad. Ntando said she would rather spend 2 weeks in quarantine than infect her family.
Everything is free. It was my own room, an en-suite bathroom, everything was there. Food was there 3 times a day. There are also nurses there with the facility. During the day and at night, there are nurses there.
South Africa will probably reach its COVID-19 peak in August. Scientists and modellers have told the struggling government to expect somewhere between 40 to 50,000 deaths by the end of the year.
Look now at some news in brief. The US has summoned Zimbabwe's ambassador to explain threats made by the African nation's ruling party against the US envoy. ZANU-PF's chief, Patrick Chinamasa, called US Ambassador Brian Nichols a thug on Monday and threatened to expel him. The US has criticised arrests of high-profile supporters of a call for anti-government protests in the country on July 31st. Uganda's ruling party has nominated longtime leader Yoweri Museveni as its candidate for next year's presidential elections. The 75-year-old will be bidding for his sixth term in office following the Supreme Court's controversial decision last year to scrap presidential age limits. Many young Ugandans have never known another president. Opposition politician Bobi Wine has won support amongst younger voters who are keen for a change at the top. Mali's oppositions rejected a third bid at a deal with the government aimed at ending weeks of unrest. The so-called June 5th movement says it still wants to see the exit of President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. On Monday, Keïta began moves to create a unity government following a meeting with members of regional bloc ECOWAS, but the proposals don't go far enough. The country's seen several protests, some fatal, since the Constitutional Court tossed out dozens of parliamentary election results in a move that benefited Keïta's party. But the June 5th movement says their concerns go beyond that. An independent panel has cleared the head of the African Development Bank of corruption. Nigerian Akinwumi Adesina has headed the AFDB since 2015, but was accused by whistleblowers of poor governance and favoritism in a report this year. The independent panel included former Irish President Mary Robinson, Gambia's Chief Justice, and the World Bank's former Integrity Vice President. And former France 24 correspondent in Algeria, Monsef Ait Kassi, has been arrested in Algiers. He was detained on Tuesday, and it's still not clear what exact charges he faces. There are reports that he's being held in connection to his work with foreign media. While Tunisian-French lawyer Gisèle Halimi died in Paris on Tuesday, aged 93. The feminist activist who fought for women's rights in France initially became known for her struggle in favour of the independent movements of Tunisia and Algeria. Wassine Cornet has more.
Gisèle Halimi, an icon of the movement for women's rights, died in Paris this Tuesday. The Tunisian-French lawyer and militant made it her life mission to fight against injustice and the patriarchy. In France, she is well known for having campaigned for the decriminalization of abortion and homosexuality, the end of the death penalty, and the recognition of rape as a crime under French law. But her life as an activist began in northern Africa in the 1940s when she became a lawyer at the Tunis bar and campaigned for her country's independence. She also fought for the independence of neighboring Algeria. In 1960, she rushed to defend Jamila Boubacha, a young independence fighter who was accused by French authorities of planting a bomb at a cafe in Algiers. After her arrest, she was tortured and raped by French paratroopers. Gisèle Halimi was Boubacha's lawyer during her trial. The young Algerian was initially sentenced to death before receiving amnesty after the country gained independence. 2 years later, Halimi, famous author Simone de Beauvoir, and others wrote a book that compiled various accounts of the case. Halimi's fight against injustice didn't end there. She also had ties with the nationalist movement in Morocco, supported the Palestinian cause, and denounced American war crimes in Vietnam. For her entire life, she was known as someone who never shied away from difficult battles. Gisèle Halimi was 93 years old.
Senegalese Muslims will be celebrating the Eid al-Adha celebrations, commonly called Tabaski, on Friday. Sheep farming is a lucrative business at this time of the year. Usually it's a job for men, but one woman has joined the ranks. Our correspondents went to meet her.
From morning to night, Fatou doesn't stop for 1 second, tending to her sheep and her customers at her open-air stall in Sika Baobab, a residential neighbourhood of Dakar. The 30-year-old is one of the few female sheep breeders in the capital, and she couldn't be prouder.
Being a woman isn't just about staying at home, it's not just about doing household chores. In life, you have to be independent, to know what you want, what you are worth, and where you want to get to.
Business is going well. Her sheep sell for between 200 and 500 euros, and almost all of them are already reserved for Tabaski. It's a dream come true for Fatou.
When I was very young, I dreamt of having a flock, and I thank God now that I have one. At the beginning, I started with 2 little sheep. It's hard work. And this dream that led to this small business, Adama's Sheep.
At 1 meter 92 tall, Fatou was previously a professional basketball player before setting up a successful side business, where now she oversees a team of 10 employees all of them men.
It's the first time I've seen a woman run a breeding farm. I admire her a lot. She's a fighter. Plus, she's a basketball player.
Every day, Fatou takes her midday break at home with her family. Thanks to her business, she helps with the daily expenses and is the pride of her siblings.
She has always been passionate about this work. She gives her all. It's not an easy job, especially for a woman. If she continues with the same determination, she will achieve all her goals.
Fatou's ambition keeps growing, and after the sheep are all sold, she wants to branch out and try raising cattle as well.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.